Hey guys, so in this video, we're gonna give you a little quick walk around. I've got 3 or 4 projects that's in the shop that we're working on. I kind of want to give you guys an update on those. None of those projects are finished yet, but kind of before we start there, I don't think we've ever been in my shop before. I'm not really proud of the mess that's in this shop, but this is my shop. This isn't the shop the guys work out of. This is David's shop that he gets to work out of. And so one of the cool things about my shop that I think I like is I made all these shelves. You'll notice that I have different equipment and stuff stored that I use on projects. And you notice that whatever's up here, I don't have it in a box, or if there's a box, I have one of an example of it out. Like there's a bag of these little connectors, so I have one sitting there, all these little guys are here and I have it sitting there. So it's an efficient way that I can quickly glance and look at what I have, and it's the way that I kind of store and keep up with some of the parts that I need. But anyway, I appreciate you following on this video, and let's go look at a couple of projects that we're working on. This project is a Peterbilt truck, and what we did is we've taken a truck and we bought a cabin chassis truck basically. It was actually a heavy haul truck, double wall frame. We took the 5th wheel off. We took it down to some local folks that build beds. Typically these guys build beds for the railroad industry. So we've got enough room up here to put on like cable packages, look back in that video, road packs, multi-quip 1400 generator. That's the amps at 120 volts. I think it's around 165, 168 kW. And what we have is we have 2 of them, and these guys can be paralleled together. And we've got some videos on paralleling. But what paralleling means is that each generator can run together on a single bus, and then if one dies for whatever reason, the breaker separates and the load never blinks to the supply. So these are typically used for like movies or video production or somewhere where you need reliable, clean power in case one of the generators quits. One of the things that we've done is you can see here there's a couple of tanks. This truck used to have a heavy haul kit, so it also had a PTO or a wet kit. We've done some videos on wet kits. You can go back and look. But what we're basically going to do is we're going to have 2 150-gallon tanks. So that'd be 300 gallons. Then we're going to have a couple of 110-gallon tanks. So that'd give us like 410 gallons for the generators and about 80 gallons for the truck. And then that way the truck will have 80 gallons to go down the road. And that way we can do off-road and on-road fuel and not have to worry about them getting mixed up. So this is kind of a fun project. It's getting close to completion. We've done tires and wheels. We've done tanks. This truck just had a new hood, grill. We've got a new bumper coming. Got to polish the front wheels. So anyway, it's kind of a work in progress, and we thought it might be fun for you to see like the project's in process, and in a couple of months we'll show you finishing it up. We're going to change out this air tank that's painted. We've got some stainless ones, you know, so what they say, chrome won't get you home, but sure does make the truck look good. All right, so here's another fun little project that's left over from the movie quad generator project. So if you guys are familiar with the multi-quip 1400 series generators, this is the trailer that they typically come on. Nice 8,000 pound axles. It has a fuel tank in the bottom that's under the reportable quantity for diesel. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a multi-compartment trailer or multi-container, not at the bulk size. I mean, there's a whole bunch of rules, but there's a company called Thunder Creek that has done it. So they have a real good explanation about all the different rules as it relates to CFR 49 or whatever the DOT rating is. But if you basically have a fuel tank that is smaller than the size that you have for bulk containers, which these tanks are, and you have them valved apart separately, and I've bought some stainless steel valves that can have manual, lock-in manual, which meets the spec, or electric, so that the operator doesn't have to do anything. But you can operate this trailer without a CDL. Hazmat. All of our guys have that move fuel tankers for us because of the training we do with them. They typically have that, but it's nice to have a trailer that gives you that flexibility. So if you guys have seen our video at like Running Man and some of the other festivals that we do, you see we'll build portable water systems or portable power systems. Well, all those things require generators or diesel engines a lot of times, whether it's the equipment or the generators, so we have to have fuel on site. So this gives us a nice way that we can get that out there and leave it. We're going to add solar panels to this, lithium-ion battery, so the solar panel keeps it charged up. We'll also have a place where you can plug it up. So this gives a fueling site where they can bring their Rangers or their equipment or their tractors or backhoes, whatever equipment they're using, they can fuel it up. This can be moved to the generator sites to fuel those up. So it gives you a nice little way that you can leave some fuel there without having to leave a whole truck. Kind of fun over there on the saw, you see a 4x4 piece of aluminum that we're going to jack up to do this. We're going to put these 4 tanks together on one manifold. We're gonna take the belly tank that's surviving in this trailer and have a pump. So we're gonna have 2 separate pumps, 2 separate containing vessels with valves that you shut off as you move it down the road. So it's kind of fun. So it'll give us nearly 600 gallons of fuel, 580 gallons of fuel. So this is a fun project that we'll let you guys see how it comes together in the next couple of days. All right, guys, so here's another cool thing that I didn't know about that I've kind of like stumbled into. And this is an ultrasonic leak detector. And so it's kind of cool because leak sounds, and I didn't know this, they happen above like 20,000 hertz. Well, we can't hear past 20,000 hertz. And heck, old people like me probably can't hear past 10,000 hertz. And you know, as we get older, the ability of those little hairs in our ears to vibrate fast enough and turn into sound that means something goes away as everything slows down on old people. But this thing, it can hear from like 30,000 to 90,000, and then it moves that down into a register that we can hear. And then it has this cool little gauge on it that pops up there. And you see how it's all saying zeros, and now it's starting to get right there. And if I make a sound way back here, like sss, and you see how just that little bit of sss, 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 the hissing sound, barely making it. And there's so much of that sound that's outside of our normal hearing, it becomes ultrasonic. And this little gadget, it comes with a little parabolic antenna to focus it so you can get away from it. It comes with some headphones, and it comes with this little tube adapter if you want to use this. And you know, like if you needed to narrow in on a component that was leaking, you could get real close to it. I wasn't aware of it, but the HVAC, the industrial people use it. This particular one, I paid a little bit more money for it. It has multiple filters on it. And you notice when I hit this button, it has an auto filter and it says 0, so it knows there's no background ambient noise. But a lot of times motors and other things create ultrasound frequencies in that range. But when you put this on, you can hear the leak. And these leaks are not normally heard, you know, by us. So if you take a look at a big truck, you can see all of these airline fittings and all of this stuff in here. Well, the other day I had a leak in here. This particular truck, it charges the air back up automatically when it's in station. And I had the unit set like this, and as soon as I got right here, the meter went wild, and I zoomed around on it, and I found a leak on one of these little bitty push connectors back there, and I found it in like 1 minute. Now, everybody's gonna say, hey, we could have used soapy water and all that, but you know, sometimes you don't want to get soapy water on different things, and it pinpointed the leak just really, really fast. These things are a little pricey. They're like $400 to $1,000 if you buy the transmitter. The neat thing about the transmitter is, say you had a leak on that truck in the windshield, you can put this inside the truck and it sends out that ultrasonic hissing sound that we were talking about, and it will create, and then you can go around the window of the truck. You can find the leak because that sound will leak out of that hole. You know, this is something that I wasn't aware of. You know, we're not sponsored by this. It's made by a company called Amprobe. I mean, I found leaks in behind panels and doors and stuff that I would have never found, and it'll just take you right to it. So I didn't know there was any such a thing. You can just hear it leaking and you can go right to it. It's amazing. All right, guys, so right here is a project. We got this truck from my electrician, so there's things that we need to do to it. We need to put the radio in it, need to add an inverter, need to add the warning lights, need to add the do not idle, kill out switch, and then some other power stuff, which we're about to show you. So that's kind of what we're doing. I'm gonna just kind of give you the highlights of it. It's a kind of a work in progress. I've done a video about this before. This is a neat little thing that we do. You see these 2 wires going down to that battery, and you'll notice that the battery's plugged in. It has a battery maintainer. One thing a lot of people forget when they're doing this, you got the hood open and stuff, the new cars are pretty smart, and they'll cut themselves off so that the interior light doesn't run the battery down, but there's still parasitic draw from the computers and all other things. So we leave the battery connected up. So we've got a 2,000 watt inverter. So if you do a little quick math, because of the inefficiencies of the inverter, you're gonna need about 200 amps at 12 volts to get to 2,000 watts. So it'd be 2,400 watts, the inverter's 2,000 watts. So right here we have a 200 amp voltage switch. It'll turn the inverter on and off. We've got this pulled out in case you've done it on a truck like this. This is the upfitter switches, and we're gonna use the first 3 switches for the flashing function for the warning on the truck. We're gonna use the last 3 switches for the light, where you can turn all the work lights on. And you've seen some of our videos in the past on that, and we've been using the Phoenix light bars. And in the past we recommended them. And in complete and total transparency, we're just gonna be real honest. I've had these on my truck for 2 years now, and we've had some failures on these. I've replaced, there's probably 6 or 8 of them new installed in the last 2 years, and I've replaced 3 of them for water damage. In fairness to Phoenix, they're making them up. The Quantum version is the kind where you program the color you want, and there's more money. So there's a little bit of a hassle with those guys to getting that straightened out, but they're doing it. If you haven't decided on a light bar yet, you may want to wait a little bit longer and see if they've worked out in the later models of the Quantum where the water ingress isn't bad. We've only had 1 or 2 rockers go bad, and none of the sidebar lights. So I think it's just where the water, you know, if you're driving 60, 70 miles an hour and it's raining, you're driving water into those things. So the next thing we do is we add the power to the back. And so we've got these big, huge 2-0 cables, and then we run them down the frame rails, have a 200 amp breaker that we separate the power on. And then of course all the upfitter switches are fused. That's another little thing that we ought to probably talk about, is you take this little fuse panel off of the main fuse panel, and it comes with some 40 amp fuses in there. And I changed those out to 20 because typically I don't want to run, you know, 40 amp fuse, you know, you might need to run an 8 or 10 gauge wire on those circuits to keep them, you know, where the fuse is big enough to break the wire has enough current so it doesn't get hot. So I changed them down to 20s because most of the time we only need like 5 or 10 amps per switch. So that's a good thing. And then here's the switch where you can change the little fuse over, and you can make the last 2 come on all the time where you don't have to have the key on. So that's handy for some folks that have a upfitter switch that they want to use when the key's not on. I like all mine to just work with the truck to idle. That's what we do. Here's another little quick trick. If you look right here on these Ford trucks, I was walking by and working on one time, and they're aluminum now. I caught my sleeve in this little gadget right here, and I actually damaged this part of the truck. So when I'm working on the trucks where I'm dragging cords and cables up, I just use this painter tape, because like if I'm dragging a wire over the edge, you know, I don't want to scratch the truck. So, and when you're doing these battery cables, and you know, we're electricians, so we have a lot of different things. In the past, we've used these crimpers that are mechanical. I mean, I think this thing's pretty expensive, but it's a pretty nice tool that does crimping, and it really saves you a lot of time because you crimp it, put your connector in there, and it'll crimp it down. So we used it on all these different connectors. That's a pretty neat thing. It comes with all the dies. I think we have the dies from 1,000 maybe 500 MCM all the way down to number 6. So that's kind of a fun tool. Another little neat trick that's kind of good is the wires that they go back, as I make them all up here, I write them on blue tape, and it keeps up with what I do. And sometimes I leave that even stuck inside the truck. Okay, so in this first bay, so here's the ground coming in. And so I did a thing right here where I took the ground that we ran into it, I grounded it to the cabinet, I grounded it to the ground from the battery, and then I grounded it as it comes up into the inverter. Then I have the red wire that's coming into the solenoid that disconnects, and then that allows me to run over to this fuse panel, and then I'll put a relay here, a time delay relay, that when the key comes on, it'll stay on for an hour after it sees the signal. And it's the same relay I use to make the idle last for 20 minutes so it doesn't cut off after 30. But anyway, so then all the accessories will run for an hour after the truck's cut off. So that's kind of a neat feature. Up here you can see I have the inverter mounted. It's a 2,000 watt inverter, and it allows us to get 2,000 watts. So I took and I ran to the back of the truck another plug. I was able to put a waterproof plug here on the back of the truck, which allows them to use up to 2,000 watts. That's probably what, 18, 19 amps. And then there's 3 plugs in here. So they'll configure this bay for all their battery charging and different accessories that they might need to charge up. You notice we have the light bar on the top. The neat thing about these light bars is we can program them, and I actually program the blinkers in, white function or like a cruise function or a lit function, and then the flash function. So when you put your brakes on or your turn signals, it'll flash these last 3 on this side or the last 3 on that side. If I wanted to pay for the red color, you could actually make it a brake light. You can do a lot of things. There's a lot of flexibility. The computer's here because you program the quantums to the 12 different inputs so that you can get what you want. So that's kind of a neat function. Caleb likes to pack out stuff from Milwaukee, which is cool. The nice thing about this, I think it's napide. And these beds are really nice. It has an integrated function so that when you push the truck remote, it locks the door boxes for you. So it's like a car, but you don't have to go around and lock every door box. It does it with the truck, so that's nice. we do our stickers. Our local company provides us stickers and cuts it out, and you see the X's so we can align. This truck is a 450, which the basic thing in a 450 and a 350 gives you a little more weight carrying, a little larger tire. But you notice this little jut out, what they do is they make the front axle much wider than a regular 350, so it gives you more clearance back to the frame. So this truck will turn around tighter than my pickup truck will. There's a lot that goes into our trucks. We still got a radio system that in, so we'll put an antenna up there and have the company radio for it, and a couple other things. But when we get this one finished too, but these are 3 or 4 of the projects that's going on. We still, of course, have the sleeping trailer behind us working on it. So anyway, we appreciate you watching. As always, if you know somebody that's interested in any of these videos, from the generators to the fuel to this truck, the Phoenix light systems, look back through our videos. We have specific videos about most of those things, and we'd like for you to share them and comment, and we appreciate you watching.